Isaac, what are you looking at?
Isaac has no next of kin.
What does that mean?
He will need...
Dad.
Isaac.
Dad?
Come to the forest. Don't be scared.
At the beginning of the movie, we see a boy arriving at the hospital with his mother. They enter a specific room where his father, James, lies on the bed. The man has just passed away, and Laura, the boy's mother, has brought him to say goodbye. James's body is in poor condition, almost unrecognizable due to injuries. His head is wrapped in a bandage that completely conceals his face. Isaac is visibly struggling to process what has happened. The weight of losing his father at such a young age is unbearable for him. Laura, doing her best to remain strong for her son, stays by his side, offering him the support he desperately needs. But no amount of comfort can ease Isaac's grief. He is inconsolable, his young mind unable to comprehend the permanence of loss. At home, Isaac isolates himself, rewatching old videos and flipping through family photographs that painfully remind him of the moments he shared with his father. Instead of finding solace, these memories serve as haunting reminders of James's absence. Every video and picture deepens Isaac's sense of loss, reinforcing the painful reality that his father is gone forever. The weight of these memories begins to take a toll on him. As time passes, the situation worsens for both Laura and Isaac. Laura receives devastating news. Isaac is at risk of being taken away from her. Without James as a living next of kin, and given Laura's deteriorating emotional state, the authorities are planning to separate mother and son. This revelation sends Laura into a spiral of despair. She is already struggling to cope with her grief, and now she faces the possibility of losing her child as well. Isaac, overwhelmed by everything happening around him, retreats into video games. It becomes his escape, a distraction from the pain and loss he feels. He shuts himself off emotionally, avoiding conversations about his feelings and refusing to open up to anyone. Meanwhile, a family friend visits Laura and Isaac, offering his support to help them through their grief. The man's kind words and tender presence seem to bring a small sense of comfort, especially to Isaac, who appears to appreciate the man's efforts to cheer them up. However, Laura is also struggling deeply. Though she has tried to remain strong for Isaac, the cracks in her emotional armor are beginning to show. One day, overwhelmed by everything, Laura breaks down in tears. The poor woman has carried the weight of this tragedy on her shoulders for too long, and now everything seems to be collapsing around her. The loss of her husband, the pressure of protecting Isaac, and the fear of losing him altogether have become too much to bear. One day, out of panic, Laura suddenly contacts a group of firefighters. She claims to have seen a fire and rushes to call for help. The group of men arrive at the scene, but apparently it's a false alarm, and there's no fire in sight. The firefighters eventually leave, but Laura can't shake the feeling that something is wrong, even if she can't explain it. The mother and son are alone again at the apartment, and life in the house returns to its strange, uneasy normal. Soon, James's funeral takes place. Family and friends gather to pay their respects, mourning the loss of a husband, father, and friend. The atmosphere is heavy with sorrow, tears flowing freely as loved ones say their goodbyes. Isaac stands silently at a distance, observing the scene with a blank expression. He shows no outward emotion, as though he is detached from everything around him. He watches as flowers are placed on his father's grave, motionless and distant, almost as if he is not truly there. After the funeral, strange things begin to happen to Laura and Isaac. One day, Isaac finds his mother lying motionless on the floor. Panic washes over him as he frantically calls out to her, desperate for a response. Laura remains unresponsive, and Isaac's fear grows. Suddenly, Bella, the family dog, begins barking furiously. The dog's gaze is fixed on something unseen, and it barks endlessly, growling with fury. The loud barking snaps Laura out of her unconscious state, and she regains consciousness. However, the barking dog draws her attention to something unsettling. Bella's behavior is unusual, and her aggression seems directed at an invisible threat. Laura becomes terrified, unsure of what the dog senses but convinced there is something wrong. Eventually, Bella calms down, and the house settles into an uneasy quiet. Laura and Isaac try to move on, but the tension remains. Later, Laura is surprised when Isaac asks if he can spend the night in her room. This request catches her off guard, because Isaac was always closer to his father. His bond with James had been strong, and since his passing, Isaac has felt like a part of himself is missing. Laura agrees to let him stay, and for one night, mother and son share a rare moment of closeness. However, by morning, the connection seems to fade, and they part ways without a word, like complete strangers who hadn't spent the whole night in each other's arms. Soon after, the family friend visits again, concerned about Laura and Isaac. Laura opens up about the strange incident with Bella. The man doesn't know what to make of her revelation, but he continues to listen regardless. Afterwards, he suggests that Laura and Isaac move in with him, hoping to provide them with a stable and supportive environment. Laura declines the offer. She chooses to stay in her home despite the difficulties. The family friend continues to offer his help, but there is only so much he can do. Isaac begins having strange dreams about his father. In one of these dreams, James calls out to him, and Isaac confronts him, questioning why he left them. The dream unsettles Isaac, and the next day, he starts acting strangely. His behavior catches Laura's attention. She notices him standing outside, seemingly talking to someone. Bella becomes agitated again, and rushes toward Isaac, barking furiously at an unseen presence. Laura rushes to the scene. The situation with Isaac and Bella sends her into panic. Isaac insists that the presence is his father, trying to stop the furious dog. Bella is infuriated by an unseen presence. Laura is unnerved by her son's claims of seeing his father, but isn't sure what to believe. Realizing that she cannot handle these events alone, Laura calls for help. An elderly woman with close ties to the family arrives to offer guidance. She talks with Isaac and questions him about his behavior. Isaac opens up, telling her that his father is alive and with them, though his appearance has changed. The woman, intrigued, asks Isaac to draw a sketch of what his father now looks like. Without hesitation, Isaac produces a frightening drawing that unsettles both Laura and the woman. Concerns are being raised about Isaac. They fear for his mental health. However, the woman advises Laura not to draw conclusions just yet, and be with her son every step of the way. She knows it hasn't been easy for the family, and sympathizes with them. After the woman leaves, Laura has one more look at the sketch Isaac made. It's quite a frightening drawing that leaves her with a sense of unease. Determined to get to the bottom of things, she asks Isaac to take her to where he believes James is hiding. Isaac obliges. Isaac leads her deep into the woods, claiming that this is where his father resides. Laura becomes increasingly concerned for her son's well-being. Her eyes are filled with worry for her son. When she tries to take him away, Isaac resists violently, forcing Laura to drag him back home. Isaac might appear to be the one going crazy, but the one losing her mind is Laura. Laura feels swallowed up in the darkness. With all the support around her, it's still as if she is all alone. Meanwhile, Bella goes to face its demons. The dog has a one-on-one confrontation with the monster it's always chasing. Meanwhile, Bella, the family dog, appears to confront the entity it has been sensing all along. The dog disappears into the night, but the next day, Laura finds Bella's lifeless body. The dog has been brutally attacked, its body left in a horrifying state, as though it had been eaten alive. The sight is beyond terrifying, and Laura is left shaken to her core. The situation escalates when Isaac claims to have seen his father in his room. Laura's panic reaches a breaking point. She feels everything spiraling, out of control, and longs to escape the nightmare her life has become. In a moment of emotional vulnerability, she kisses the family friend who has been supporting her. However, the man pulls away, avoiding any form of intimacy between them. What they don't know is that Isaac has been watching them all along. The young boy is devastated by what he perceives as a betrayal, and becomes even more withdrawn. After, Isaac takes Robert to the place he claims his father built for him. Robert is amazed by it, and goes closer to have a look. He invites the young child inside the structure to have a look with him. But Isaac claims he's too scared. The two resolve to sit outside and talk. Robert is still trying to persuade Isaac to come and live with him. Isaac's response to his offer hasn't changed. He is uninterested in Robert's kind gesture. Tensions rise as Robert tries to convince Isaac that James is gone forever. All of a sudden, he begins to hear rustling sounds. He stops to listen, drawing Isaac's attention. The atmosphere becomes unsettling as Robert feels that something lurks in the darkness. The next day, when Laura discovers that Robert has tragically lost his life, she is left devastated. According to Isaac, he had slipped and fell, thus cracking his skull. The child also confronts her about kissing him earlier. The woman begins to add 1 and 1. Isaac claims that he and Robert were playing, and he slipped and fell, hurting himself. However, this story doesn't add up. Laura is horrified and begins to believe that Isaac is responsible for the strange occurrences since James's passing. The poor woman can no longer deal with him, nor can she handle the situation any longer. She believes he is somehow connected to all the odd and unsettling happenings since James passed away. Feeling she can no longer manage the situation, she tells Isaac that she is leaving, and that the authorities will come for him in the morning. She hopes they will be able to provide the care he needs. Isaac sits silently, listening to her words without reacting. Laura reveals to Isaac that she'll be leaving by morning, and maybe the authorities are the best option for the young boy. She hopes they will be able to care for him better than she ever has. Isaac is still motionless as Laura continues to speak. That night, Laura has a gruesome encounter with a strange figure that resembles James. The sight is horrifying, and Laura does not survive the encounter. It all starts when the horrifying figure emerges from the darkness, immediately attacking her. Laura screams in fear and agony. Isaac arrives and holds the terrified woman in his arms, with a blade in his hands. This is too much to bear for the poor woman. The strange and haunting figure attacks her again. This time, blood gushes out of her body, and she loses consciousness instantly. The movie then shifts forward in time. Isaac is now grown, living alone, and still haunted by his father's presence. Summoning his courage, Isaac ventures into the structure his father built for him. Inside, he finds a photograph of himself and James, which brings him to tears. The movie ends with a shocking revelation. Laura is alive, and has been living with Isaac the entire time.